Alright, hey foodies, welcome in. So, today we have potentially massive news. Now, as with everything that is a rumor, it needs to be taken with a grain of salt because this could be completely untrue, completely unfounded, and just made to take advantage of community speculation. So, nothing that I say today is 100% confirmed or confirmed in any official capacity. However, it is known that in the past things have had a habit of getting leaked for Dead by Daylight and being true. A lot of the time, we know what's coming before it actually comes. That's just kind of the way with a game that's so popular. It's to be expected. But this one's pretty exciting if it's true. It would seem as though there are two major changes coming, or I should say major changes coming to two of the most frustrating perks in all of the game, as well as a change coming to one of the game's most despised killers. So I'm gonna put it up on the screen off to this side. We're gonna put it up to my side. We're gonna read through this together, and then I'm going to go through and talk about the potential implications of the changes to Decisive Strike, NOED, and Freddy. So let's go on and put that up there, and let's get to it. So this will be the 4.4.3 patch, which is coming up relatively soon, and the perk updates. Decisive Strike timer has been reduced from 60 seconds at tier 3 to 45 seconds. Very big one there. We're going to read through the whole thing, and then I'll actually discuss the potential impact of each thing. Hex, No One Escapes Death, is no longer a perk. NOED is no more because it becomes just No One Escapes Death. Not Hex, No One Escapes Death, just No One Escapes Death. So the perk description has been updated. Once the final generator is completed, all survivors become exposed for 100, 110, 120 seconds. Windows of opportunity will now show fake and illusionary pallets in a red aura to better distinguish from real pallets, which is, I actually realized that's not part of the NOED thing. That's actually going to deal with Freddy more than that's going to do with anything, which let's go and get into that. That should have been, probably, I don't know, I mean, I guess it's a perk update, so I don't know, but we'll get into the killer updates, which come next, which all have to do with the Nightmare, Freddy Krueger. The Nightmare's weapon hitbox has been adjusted to his actual weapon length. Now, that is the one part of this that makes me question the legitimacy, and we'll get back to that in a second. We're going to finish reading through it, but I think we'll hop right in and talk about that before we talk about anything else. The Nightmare's jump rope and swing chain add-ons have had their speed penalties decreased. That one's actually pretty realistic. The Nightmare's dream snares now decay after a short period of time. The Nightmare's lullaby, while in a dream world, is now directional. And then we have a last little bit that says known bugs. The Nightmare's lullaby does not function as intended while asleep. So, there's a lot to go over there. If all of this is true, these are some pretty big changes. But I don't think these are changes that are going to upset the community, for the most part. So let's go on and let's talk about why I think that the bit about Freddy's weapon. So it says the weapon hitbox has been adjusted to his actual weapon length. Why do I feel that might be kind of the tip in the hand that this, I don't know, this is wishful thinking. Maybe that this is fake, I don't know, because the rest of this actually seems pretty reasonable and realistic. So I find that this is the one part where the issue is saying, well, Freddy's weapon is actually going to match his lunge distance, because Freddy, people always call him a sniper. They say that it's amazing how it'll look like Freddy misses you by a country mile and he still gets the hit, and it's been a very frustrating thing for a long time. But the devs have been very open about saying it's not a Freddy specific issue. What it is he has a tiny weapon compared to most of the other. He doesn't have a massive cleaver like Trapper. He doesn't have the massive Azarov skull of the Wraith. He's dealing with a small weapon, and it's naturally going to look more like he got lucky hits than it would with those other ones that take up a lot of space. However, it's worth noting that these issues don't exist for some of the other killers with small weapons like the Clown, or Legion. So it could be a thing where that's being fixed. I just want to point it out there that if this turns out to be fake, I think we'll look back at that one and say, well, there's them tipping their hands, because if this was as easy if this was as easy to fix as just adjusting the hitbox, I think they would have done it by now, but who knows, maybe not. Let's finish up talking about the nightmare stuff, because I think that's the only really juicy part of the nightmare thing. Adjusting the time on the swing chains, that's fine. Freddy's pretty oppressive to play right now, so I would definitely be okay with that. We have the dream snares decaying after a short period of time. I'm not a fan of that. I think that if Freddy wants to spend time setting up clever traps with his dream snares, they should stay. Though I do understand that the dream snares are very powerful. They're basically like, they're like the clown's ability, but he can set them and leave them there. Instead of having to throw them and reload them and only get 4 of them, he gets 10 of them. So I do understand it from that perspective, and it would not be the worst change in the world. Then, lastly, his lullaby becoming directional actually feels rather appropriate, given that the only other lullaby in the game, the Huntress's lullaby, is directional, and that generally works pretty well for her. So I think that making his directional would be, I think it'd be a positive change, but make sure to comment below if you're a Freddy main or if you just really have strong feelings about the Freddy Krueger character in this game. Let me know how you feel about those, but let's get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of this video, which is the nerf to Decisive Strike. And depending on how you look at it, the nerf or the buff to NOED. So with Decisive, it doesn't seem maybe like a big thing to some people, and then to some people it probably seems like the end of the world. Shaving 15 seconds off the amount of time that Decisive is active is pretty big. That's actually a considerable, I'm going to say that's a considerable amount of time, because what you're doing there is you are taking, what would it be? That's a quarter of the time off of it, right? Because yeah, I'm not great at math, but 15, 30, 40, yeah. So you're taking a quarter. It's sad I had to think that out. I know. I'm an English major. Or I was, I guess. It's pretty, you're taking 25% off of the time that they have to stab the killer, which is a pretty decent difference maker. I don't think that it fixes Decisive per se, but I think it makes it better, because one thing that's always annoyed me is a minute in Dead by Daylight time is a long time. It takes, I want to say if somebody is soloing a generator, it takes 80 seconds to do. So if they get, Decisive Strike is active and the killer doesn't want to touch them while they have that, well, all of a sudden, they can get 60 of those 80 seconds done, roughly. I mean, you gotta factor in them running to the generator, so maybe 50 of those seconds. But they can get a considerable portion of the generator done and be completely invincible. So to knock off 15 seconds, I think that's a quality change. I do think some Survivor mains are going to be very upset about that, but I also think that most of the reasonable people in the community can acknowledge that Decisive Strike has been a considerable problem since it was brought into the game. It is, I would say it is the crutchiest of crutch perks, and that's from somebody who, if you log onto my streams, DOS_food on Twitch, hey. If you watch my streams, you're just as likely to find me playing Survivor as you are Killer. I play both sides a ton. I don't have a side that I'm like, oh, that's the side I belong to. I like them both. I enjoy both play styles. So I'm not coming at this as some hateful, spiteful Killer main who says, yes, get rid of it. For me, I feel dirty if I use it as a Survivor, and I hate to go against it as a Killer because it just doesn't feel fair. So shave the 15 seconds off. That's nice. Again, comment below if you disagree with me or if you're just super hyped to see that change, that potential change, not confirmed. Lastly, we do have, actually, first off, one quick, one sentence description here. Windows of Opportunity showing the dream palettes from Freddy. Lovely change. I think that's great. Some perks are going to hard counter certain killers. You make windows all the more enticing to bring if you do that. Fantastic. I hope they make that change. I don't know that they will, but I hope they bring that one. And then finally, NOED, the bane of Survivor's existence. If Decisive Strike is the most problematic Survivor perk, NOED is the most problematic Killer perk. And it's a lot of the same thing where you have Killer mains who feel kind of dirty when they use it, and you have Survivors who feel like the entire game they just played was invalidated, because essentially a Killer got insta-downs at the end of the game for doing nothing, essentially for letting gens get done, and it's definitely been a problem in that regard. So I have more mixed feelings, whereas the Decisive Strike, I look at that and I 100% say that's pretty awesome. That's good. I am glad that they're taking time off of it. I look at the NOED change, which would stay NOED. I was gonna say you gotta change the acronym. No, you don't. They don't put the H in there anyway. NOED. I look at that and I'm not as enthusiastic, because to me, the redeeming quality of NOED is that it can be, it's dual-fold. It's that it can be gone in 5 seconds, or 7 seconds. It takes 7 seconds to cleanse a totem. You can get rid of NOED in 7 seconds. If you find the totem, you can destroy the totem. That's one thing. And then secondly, it's that you can negate it altogether by just cleansing totems, which for me, that's a thing I do. I cleanse totems frequently. If I come across a totem, I cleanse it. And it's not just if I happen across. If I'm in an area and I feel like there's probably a totem around here, I'll do a quick little, kind of cursory search, and usually I find one. So, as somebody who tries to counter NOED as is, it's a little frustrating to think that a killer is going to get 2 minutes of insta-downs. I don't like this change at all. This one, I'm for the Freddy changes, I'm for the Windows changes, I'm for the decisive changes, but this NOED one, this needs to go back to the workshop, because this is not the answer to fix NOED. Giving them 2 minutes, that's an eternity. 2 minutes of insta-downs, that's too much. I think that would take a perk that's already hated and make it downright despised. But that's going to do it for me. That is the news of the day for Dead by Daylight. Let me know how you guys feel about it, because I do feel like this potential leak is pretty spicy if that's true. But again, who knows, really? I mean, it could be true, it could not be. We're just going to have to wait and see on this one. We'll know sooner than later. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for me. Make sure, if you enjoyed this video, to like and subscribe. And guys, please do comment below, because these are the types of videos where I love to hear conversation about how you feel about things, because my opinion is not the only opinion. And I'm always here to, I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. But that's going to do it for me. I've been DasFoot, and until next time.